Well, good evening to you. Good morning to you. In most of the east, into the west, we're still split before midnight. It is 1:13 Central Time here across the middle portion of the country, and I wanted to just give you a little update here. This is LSM Television, and we wanted to make sure that you were aware, especially with everything that happened during the last 7 days with the the winter risk again bringing us tornadoes, and you can see some of that right here behind me here. That's some of the drone footage that Brett Adair and Heath Lawler took over the last couple of days of the big tornadoes that made their way through central and southern Alabama and then into Georgia and South Carolina too. And we have yet another risk. We've seen them on a cycle of about every 7 days or so coming through the deep south, the southern United States, which is typical. It's not really that out of the norm, except for the time of the year. It's January. That normally happens either into early portions of September, October, November, or a little bit later on in April, May, kind of a deal there too. March, April, and May is typically the biggest for the southern United States and across the rest of the country, obviously, through the summer months. But right now, we're still talking about a new risk, brand new risk. Going to bring it to you as soon as possible. Just coming across just a few moments ago, and this is for a slight risk again to continue for portions of the Tennessee Valley up in western Kentucky from Paducah southward all the way down and across I-55 that goes into central Mississippi again, and then as far to the west, bounded on the western side by Shreveport, Louisiana. It's a slight risk that goes across I-20. It includes almost down to Beaumont, Port Arthur area there of the eastern Texas and into the rest of the region, which would be I-10 going in from west to east over to Baton Rouge, but up I-55 coming into Jackson, Mississippi, and as far to the east, we'll say bounded by the Alabama border there in portions of northwestern Alabama too. Almost includes Nashville. It's right there along I-40 as you get into Middle Tennessee and beyond. And it could be. Now, we know the severe weather is never bounded by just the risk area. And oftentimes you'll have your first warnings or two come out of the other marginal risk area that you can see there too, or even out of those boxes. We can have them as well. So just a heads up on where this is expected to be and when. This is going to be Wednesday. This is again day 2 in the risk category. Day 2, which would include Wednesday and into early Thursday morning. So that severe risk will be there throughout and up and down the line there across the central sections of Mississippi, and really kind of the same sort of scenario that's lining up here across these areas too. Let me talk a little bit about what's going on with our modeling data here, and we'll look at what we've got as far as we go out a little bit. Actually, I think we can go to our 3K model here and take a look at the NAM 3K with a little bit more extension here. Let me get rid of that so you can see a little bit better about everything that's going on. And we'll choose our dew points here because that's first of all what you're going to notice that is the change here in our overall forecast is once again dew points are pretty high when you start looking at this whole scenario. We'll put it in motion for you and show you. Now anywhere you see, let me do this to begin with, because anywhere that you do see this line right here, we are looking at dew points being right there into the 60s, and that's kind of your mark that we talk about this time of the year. When you get to 62, 63, we get very concerned about that mark and about what's going to go on. We get those kind of conditions there, and so you can see we do have temps there that we're looking at, or not temps, but actually dew point temps right at that 60-degree line that goes in that color right there, and that's going to be like a light blue. The green is for the 50s, so these are isotherms telling us lines of equal temperature. So just to show you that, and now let's put it back into motion a little bit here, and we can take a look as we go down the road. Let me stop the motion there, but here we go, and this is into Tuesday afternoon. You can see the dew points start to surge northward across this area, coming into Houston, coming into Louisiana, New Orleans, the rest of that region there too, back into Alabama by this point as well. We get into the low 60s, and this is operational. This is good enough for the atmosphere to be unstable in all of these regions. And then you can see the cool front coming through. We're going to have low pressure that will be moving across Texas at this point. It will make its way further and further to the east as we go along with time, and that's going to be our trigger point. That's going to be our lift right here. We got a warm front coming through here. There's going to be warmer air that starts to come in out of the Gulf of Mexico. Low pressure right about there. The adjacent cold front down to the south. It'll move all the way across Texas and continue its motion off to the east. This is so typical for what we have seen over the past month and a half with these systems coming in from the west. This time we get a little bit of a triple point area too, which means that the cold front will be outrunning the warm front in a few isolated areas, and that'll be extra spin vorticity that is created around that triple point area. And so the whole thing, just like the past couple, is going to be a close call through the day. And let's just go through it hour by hour here with reflectivity as well to show you that. If we go back in time, put it in motion here and show you what we are expecting. And this is your 3-kilometer resolution, which gives us a good idea of what the radar might look like at this point. Kind of dotty spotty across this region. And again, you're looking at 4 a.m. on Wednesday morning. It starts to thrive during the afternoon. Those are I-40 storms up there near Arkansas, near Little Rock and beyond. But those look a little bit rogue, and they should be into the warm air, enough into the warm air to where some of those could be spinning there too. We get into 8 a.m., 9 a.m., and then you start to see some of it building around Shreveport and, again, just south of Little Rock. Now, I'm seeing this for the first time as well. Now you got a linear thing going on here, but we've also got some scattered thunderstorms, singular thunderstorms that have popped up out in advance of the whole thing right through here. Those will have to be watched. They're isolated. They would be supercellular, perhaps, if this is the case. And then as we go a little bit further in time, you can see it moving eastward on eastward. Some other thunderstorms start to pop here and there, but much of them, many of them, are lined up along the frontal boundary itself that goes from Memphis southward down the Mississippi River and into the Gulf of Mexico. Might make it to Baton Rouge by that point. We'll make it to Monroe, Louisiana on I-20. Right there again about 7 p.m. on Wednesday. Still moving on to the east through the rest of the evening and maybe even into the overnight. Now we got thunderstorms popping well in advance of this. This looks late in the night. If you believe the NAM 3K, this is a little bit later where we'll have thunderstorms there just east of Mobile, Pensacola. These will be supercells. These might even be waterspouts coming ashore at this point, which we've seen many, many times over the past couple of months as well. When you got the Gulf of Mexico involved, we end up having these waterspouts that'll pop up, come onshore, producing tornadoes, and that might be an area there that we would be looking at for that to be the case as well. And again, if you remember, our slight risk now covered much of that region there across eastern Mississippi too, and almost made it into Alabama. The thinking is that after 1 a.m. we lose a lot of the lift available there. We lose a lot of the moisture content down to the south, still pushing on to the east into Birmingham early in the morning as we get into Thursday, and then kicking off generally in that direction too. We got a couple of things we're watching here besides that system. Talking to Brett Adair, who is, this is his channel, the LSM TV channel, talking to Brett. We have another system coming up over the weekend and maybe another one 3-4 days after that as well. We just finished up on the heels of one that was fairly large across the state of Alabama. We've had 9 confirmed deaths now, 7 in the state of Alabama, a small child in Georgia, sadly. But we do have some more information about that. In fact, our very own correspondent, Dean Perry, has a little bit more information, and he filed this report.
Yeah, David, you really do hate to see something like this happen. 9 dead, more missing. That number may continue to rise. And the tornadoes that happened across Alabama and Georgia on Thursday, January 12th, 2023, and this date will be written about in history books, is a middle of the winter outbreak happening in the deep south yet again. Seems like these are happening more and more often. And NWS Birmingham confirming 9 tornadoes going through their CWA, one of them with a track length of over 76 miles. I mean, think of that. One tornado on the ground for 76 miles in mid-January. This is just something you don't see all the time. Now, we remind our viewers to have a plan. Plan ahead of time. Be prepared for what's going to happen. Have a plan of what to do and where to go with your family when these things occur, and have multiple ways to get those watches and warnings. The WEA alerts on your cell phone are a great way. NOAA weather radio is a great way. Broadcast media is a great way. Stay weather aware and stay ahead of those storms. And one great way to do that is by watching us here on LSM TV. But we will be standing by and we will be waiting to see if we can bring you more information. And if we get any more, we'll pass it along to you there in the studio, David.
the next 10 to 12 days or so. The GFS modeling has really been a benefit to us to let us know about what's happening in those situations. We've had really good modeling forecasts as we've gone along through the last couple of events that have popped on in here. So we're going to be watching out for those. They're pretty much congruent with each other. They're pretty much following one another. There's not really a whole lot of timing difference in any one of those at the moment when it comes to that. And so we just have a very progressive situation going on. These systems coming in from the Pacific North and West, moving eastward across the Colorado Rockies, dumping snowfall there, and then making their way into the rest of the country as severe weather. Again, this is the GFS modeling coming in from 0Z. The latest that we have, the 18Z will be out very shortly. But timing-wise, again, we're looking at the low pressure right there coming onto the east. This will be, once again, valid on Wednesday morning. Right there, you have a very well-defined low pressure center that you can see on the map. This is coming in across the western portions of Nebraska. Cold front right there, an adjacent little warm front out to the east of that. But let's move ahead in time. And you can see as we go a little bit further down here, we get a triple point area right about there that we would be watching make its way across western sections of Tennessee and beyond. And that's going to be just the primary low is going to be a little further back to the west, but it'll be our triple point, our secondary low pressure center, that area there where we'll expect most of this motion to take place, and where the actually the severe weather would be at its greatest impact here, and that's going to be right there along this frontal boundary. Let me get rid of that for just a moment. But there's your slight risk that encompasses all of that coming into western sections of Tennessee, eastern Arkansas, along I-40 over there near Earl, and down to the south into northern sections of Louisiana. That's 3 p.m. on Wednesday. Looks like that is the prime time for this to actually bubble and pop and to occur across this portion of the Deep South. Once again, roughly I-10 in Louisiana. Northward encompasses all of I-55, traveling there almost over to I-65. And again, some of this might be, pushed over a little bit further to the east as we move through time into the day on Thursday, the morning on Thursday, as it all continues that eastward motion. So once again, that's where we are. Got time for a couple of questions here if you have them. I saw it is something when you look up and somebody says, "I'll be right back, I got a bear in my yard," which I do see that, so I hope you take care of that situation there. Big difference in audio levels. I can barely hear this fella. Okay. Thank you, Scott. Yeah. Okay, so yes, we are still working out the bugs in the remote, and we apologize for that. But yeah, and Dean's somewhere up in Canada, so I don't know that they have great internet up there where he is. But anyway, that's kind of what we're looking at. Let's see. That person lives down under. Morning Dove up in Michigan. You're good up in Michigan. Not a whole lot happening there. You're gonna get. I think this is gonna bring you rain for the most part. Let me see what the composite has for us, but I can bring in some of that winter precipitation, the likelihood of that, and that's going to be in type here. We'll move forward, and here it goes. So that's central sections of Michigan. The rain side probably, Detroit looks like you're in that pipe right there. Detroit to Lansing, back over to Fort Wayne. At least the GFS has it, and the rain snow line is going to be like Fort Wayne over to Cleveland into the Erie area. So that does look like a pretty good fetch right there for snow. And just how much is it going to be if we go 1 to 10 here in our snow total? That would bring us a snow total right up there into the 7 or 8 inch mark there around southern Michigan, Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne is sort of your dividing line between the rain and snow line. Heavier snowfall, though, to the north. And we'll be looking for a foot or so up into that belt that goes from Madison, from Wisconsin westward over to Iowa on I-40. That's going to be a big blower there into Omaha and back over to Grand Island, even into eastern sections of Colorado, too, south and east of Denver. Denver's looking for 4 or 5. I think there's a watch in effect there, too. Not exactly the perfect setup there, but you know how it goes in Denver, where you can get a little here and none somewhere else. So I used to tell Brad I lived in Denver there for a while, and so it was a big snowy sort of a situation there most of the time, even until the end of May. You could have snow in Denver. Well, 2 days later, it typically meant severe weather into the Deep South, and that's still kind of what we're holding on to at the moment. When talking about models, somebody asked about models, And you can see our choices here. I think I can even show them to you here. If we stay on this big picture, these are my choices here in the app. We've got the HER, the NAM, two different NAMs, different resolutions that are running here. And the smaller the number on the resolution, kilometer-wise, is the higher resolution. I mean, when you're looking at something that's 3 kilometers, it's much higher resolution. Pixels are going to be much, it's like a 40-mile grid that's 40 miles deep and wide, as compared to 3 kilometers, which is a much smaller, higher resolution, just like your television sets when you start talking about 4K and 8K and whatever that case may be. So the HER is a rapidly developing model. It takes an hour to produce itself out to 18 hours. At 3 points during the day, 4 points during the day, it goes all the way out to 48 hours. It's at the top of the 0Z, which we always go by Zulu times when it comes to modeling the international time zones. The NAM 3K, again, updates 4 times daily, and does so at, right at the 0Z time, which is right there at 6 o'clock in Central Time. 12Z, same thing, 12 hours later, it's going to be 6 a.m. in the morning, and then 18Z is noontime for us. So they all update then. It takes them a little bit longer, though, because the data is national. And so when you're doing, you're going out to, in the NAM's case, you go out to, well, in this case, it's going to be all the way out to 84 hours. If you go to the 12Z, and if you go with the 3 kilometer, you get 60 out of it on this app. But you get 14 days out of some of them. And so the European and the GFS are the longest, the ones that go out the furthest. And because of that, they take quite a bit longer, especially the European, before we get it. So all the data is gathered at 0Z on the European, but I'm not going to get it till 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., something like that, basically. Takes it a while to actually get that data. But some people love them. Some people have their favorites. And when you get your favorite and you know it, sometimes that information is better than other times. So it's a pretty good deal when you get to learn them. I've had one all my life that I've learned, and so I know sort of the discrepancies there when you look at something and you decide, I'm going to bias this a little bit in this direction or that direction, but I still believe your data in one way or another. So that's kind of what it is. It might not be a good explanation. I apologize for that, but that's the way modeling goes. And it's a little bit like a Sudoku game when you look at it and you try to figure it out. But somebody who says they know exactly what's happening with modeling is a big fat liar, pants on fire, Brett. And that's basically what kind of happens there with everything that we're looking at. What else we got? North Carolina needs some snow. North Carolina needs snow. I saw they were skiing there at Cataloochee the other day, up there in Waynesboro County, Avery County, I think it is, on the western side of North Carolina. They had quite a bit of snowfall there into the mountains. 441 going over the mountain there in Gatlinburg was closed off there for a little while, so I know there was some snow up there. Newfound Gap, Cades Cove, I saw that as well. So a little bit of snow over there. I don't know if you get any anytime really soon, because we're now in what looks to be a severe weather mode. Where everything that comes across the area is a little bit further to the south. We don't have any cold air. That's all being blocked up to the north. I don't see any cold air either. Let's just look and see what we got coming down the pike in the GFS here. Not the 12K. We'll have to go to the GFS and see what we got coming down the pike. Give it a second to build. The really, really cold stuff stays pretty far to the north. You can see how it troughs off to the east there a little bit. Turns into a Hudson Bay sort of situation. And so with a low that far to the east, the troughiness that far to the east, all your cold air should stay far to the east as well. So I think there's the new climatology data actually had some much colder air into the western United States for the next couple of weeks here. Overall, I don't know if you've seen that thing out that was out in the Atlantic too. That was some weird anomaly. I don't know if I can take you out there or not. Let me try to do this right off the cuff while we're live. My apologies. Let's see if I can do this. It might be that one. Clean IR, please work for me. How about we do that? There it is. There it is. Look at this. This is all the way up east of Nova Scotia now. This is a low pressure center out there. Let me see. How many can I put in there? 150. Let me do 200 frames. I'm going to go back in time. May take it a second to build here, but this is a wacky thing. Now, this was actually in the modeling a couple of weeks ago. This was in the model showing up as a low pressure center that was off the coast. And it, at times today, now more so at this moment than any other time during the day today, right here, it looks tropical. I mean, it really looks like it's a tropical system. There's no cold front. There's no baroclinic temperature difference to it to drive the energy into it. It absolutely looks like it's coming from the center core of this thing that far in latitude off to the north, and then now you can see it developing a low center and then a trailing cold front down to the bottom of it. So now you're no longer deriving its energy out of the Gulf Stream as it was earlier, where the Gulf Stream water temperature was back up into the 60s. 63, 64 degrees. It was enough for it to actually, 68 I think I saw. It was right in the middle of 68 degree isotherm sea surface temperature there for a little while. So as if the winter didn't get any more weirder, there's some weirdness for you. That's just off of the coast of Nova Scotia. Moving into St. Pierre, it looks like there, and east of Halifax. Weird scenario. And then the other part that we're looking at, the other thing we've been looking at, obviously, is what's happening out on the West Coast, where we've had all of the horrible weather crashing on shore again. Yet another system, a couple of systems that'll be moving back on shore again into that atmospheric river thing that the media's all over. I actually remember when the term El Nino came out. I was alive then. I was on television back then. The first time we ever heard the term El Nino. And now the media is stuck on atmospheric river. I don't know if you've noticed that. We've always kind of used that terminology, especially when it came to hurricanes, and we were talking about the jet stream. It used to be the atmospheric rivers, but now we're really pounding that in on the West Coast. Well, so is the rain. The rain is super heavy on the western coastline, and that's what we've been watching for a while. I can actually show you some of that rainfall coming in here in the western side of the country right now with this. And it's been off and on. I don't want to do 150 frames. I'm sorry. Shouldn't ask you to do that. I'll do 75, though. And to put that into motion, and there's some of your rain that's been coming into California for a while. It'll continue. The next system coming on shore again, but we already got some heavy rain up there near Sacramento that we've been looking at, down through the valley and into the mountains there. Across the mountains have been pounded with heavy snowfall, and I can't even keep up with it. I would tell you how much it's fallen there, but I can't keep up with it very much at all. And then you got this new system. Here comes your low pressure. This one's moving eastward now to Grand Junction. You can see the low coming across Colorado I-70. It'll make its way south and east of Denver, but then it's going to dump snowfall there back into Denver, back in that area to the west, and come across the rest of the country as a low pressure center that'll divide itself into two and then create this scenario during the day on Wednesday. We have that slight risk that'll be popping up across the rest of that region there too. So pretty much what we're looking at there, what you see is what you get. I'm trying to see if there are any more questions I could answer for you. Okay. I think that's kind of it. I appreciate you watching. We've had 650 views. I didn't think we'd have that many. I just really wanted to get the word out about the slight risk where that was going to be again, because now every one of these scenarios that pops up is going to be considerably concerning to us because of history. When you start talking about the last system, the couple of systems that came through, it's all about history. And so sometimes cyclically, you fall into a thing that happens once a week or once every 4 to 5 days. And until you break the cycle, each one of them is going to be genuine. And even with our situation that we had last week, now going into that, you remember it was a slight risk for a long time. And then boom, the night before became an enhanced risk and ended up probably out of the month having the most dominant tornadoes to come out of that long track tornado that took place there across that area. Once again, here's a look at the radar imagery at the moment. This is live now, showing you all the showers. We got the rainfall back to the west. As far as the winter scenario goes, we got snow there in the western United States. Got some of it with a big low pressure that you can see off to the north here that's making its way across the Great Lakes and further to the north there all the way into southern sections of Canada, coming out of Michigan, Gaylord to Detroit, Pittsburgh, all the way down to the south. That is a mixture now just to the east of Pittsburgh, Dean tells me, and that's where he's coming from. But that's going to be a rain event there for a while, which is a little bit out of the norm again. It's more of a southerly batch of rain that'll be coming in. Rain now picking up into Nashville, Tennessee, westward along I-40. That goes down to Huntsville, Birmingham, and into the I-55 corridor, or just to the east there of southern sections of Louisiana. Still following that, but that's not our system. That's not the main one that'll be coming. We'll be watching back to the west as everything develops during the day on Wednesday, especially into Wednesday morning, and a recap of that really quick with the modeling data again. I'll throw that on here just to take a look. Let me see if we can look at the HER and see if the 06 is full yet. So this is the midnight run of the HER, which only goes out to 29 hours so far, so that's not going to help us out. But the 12-kilometer NAM might. So let's take a look at that really quick here and show you again what we're looking at. There's the risk area. Let me get rid of that too because it kind of clogs everything up with your view. Dew point conditions start to come up during the day. We'll especially see that happening during the early part of the day as we get into, I'm at 06, and that data is not going to be full. Let's go to the 0Z. And there are your dew points again. That's when they start to really pick up. You can see them sliding on by with the actual cold front when it runs on through. The front comes through Dallas. This is going to be early in the day, noontime on Wednesday. The front runs through. We'll have the cooler air coming in behind the system, going through Shreveport early in the morning on Thursday, and then the actual frontal boundary makes its way through Birmingham, Alabama during the latter part of the day. Thursday night into early Thursday morning, Wednesday night, Thursday morning at 9 a.m., passing further and further down to the south. And I think right about here, the atmosphere is about as juicy as it's going to get for this area. Right about here, we have more of warm air advection that'll be coming in from the south, vorticity that'll be with it, that should kick off our thunderstorms. And so we're thinking that's the time window there that's really from 3 to 6. Is what we're looking at. And it's pretty easy to see where everything goes as far as the placement of. So this is going to be our warm front. This is a wedge. This happens on the eastern side because we have high pressure here. So the wind comes around, stays on the eastern side of the Appalachians and slides down. So the dew points will stay into the 50s here over to Atlanta northward and into eastern Alabama. That's why I've drawn the warm front where I have. Right through there. So this is a wedge, cold air damming that takes place because of the mountains. So it doesn't get that juicy in northeast Alabama. But this is the juice. This is when you get down here and you're talking about temps that are into the 70s and dew points that are close. And here's your cold front as it heads on to the east with low pressure. I can't keep changing my colors here very easily. And then this is all just warm air coming up out of the Gulf of Mexico. And so these temperatures, again, there's 63 in Birmingham. We've got dew points that'll be easily into the low to mid 60s. My point for this time of the year is about 63. 62, 63 allows instability to be primarily juiced up from the dew point conditions with any other lift that might be timing of the day or the fact that you got a cold front coming through. But look how far to the north they go. And into western Kentucky, we got 61-degree dew point conditions that are showing up there. Down to the south into Shreveport, we got 66 right there as well. Houston, Texas, 62, 63 degrees. So that's where your cold front is down there. And into the Gulf Coast, we got 60s along the border here, 63, 64, all the way over to Tallahassee and beyond. As far as Cape goes, that should give us some high Cape numbers here. That'll be, all right, here we go. And this is our ability, this is going to be instability, the factor of instability. The brighter yellows that you see are the higher Cape numbers. And we get to those. Now, these aren't, as far as the NAM's concerned, these aren't high Cape numbers, really. Let me go forward a little bit more here, too. And I didn't look at these before, but I'm not really impressed. Right there, you probably have some of the highest capes, but that's 6 p.m. on Wednesday. And then the GFS, because we do have some new information there. The GFS, I'll put this into motion. Give it 1 second to build, and the cape values are going to be a little bit higher, I think, on the GFS. Right about there. So the instability doesn't go too far to the north, at least not projected really here at this point. This Wednesday noontime on Wednesday, pushing further to the east by 3. Let's see, that's 3 p.m. right there where it sits. Your highest cape numbers are going to be from Louisiana. There's 4, 8, get to near 1,000 joules per kilogram at this point. As far to the north is Memphis and a little bit into western Alabama. But this is the time of day where it should be all the precipitation, the heavier showers and thunderstorms should really be popping by this point of the day. As you get into the latter part of the afternoon, especially any sunshine at all would aid and abet this whole situation and cause it to be more unstable. That's actually going to help this system when it comes to that, is if there's a little bit of sunshine that happens during the day. But our Cape Bud numbers are not off the charts, and our supercell index here, composite numbers, which have done pretty well over the past couple of systems. Their highest, again, right there during the early part of the day. South is Shreveport, that's 44, right over Natchitoches, Louisiana. It looks like our highest numbers there. And then that composite goes down, obviously, because it's dark at that point, and we've stabilized somewhat. So pretty much that is what you see there with that whole scenario as it heads off northward and eastward. GFS, I don't think the European would help us out very much. Maybe a little bit of data now from the HER. They would reach out to that point. Let me see. And that's just not true. So anyway, that's where we are. Let's see. Who's got what? It's fascinating. Definitely caught our attention. Brother lives in Clarksville, Tennessee. He'd be quite content to have boring weather. Yeah, Clarksville's, right up there on the border between Kentucky and down to the south, further down to the south. But there's going to be thunderstorms. There'll be thunderstorms coming through there. And I don't feel comfortable telling anybody that you're not going to get thunderstorms that have the potential for severe weather all the way up into southwestern Kentucky. We saw that the dew points will be available there. We should have dew points into the low 60s there into western Kentucky, and probably even into Clarksville. Our dew points would be quite high. Now, this is even tonight, where it looks like we got a couple of thunderstorms that come through there later tonight as far as the the NAM's concerned. Those will be moving through by 2 or 3 in the morning and make their way on through. We get a little dry spell there before this next system comes in, and we get back into the rain into western Tennessee and thunderstorms. The linear part of this comes into Clarksville right there about 9 p.m. on Wednesday, and then passes on by going into Evansville, south through down to Memphis, into the Mid-South area there, western Tennessee along I-40, I-22 that comes in from the south over near Birmingham, Alabama, but 22 goes northward all the way up through Tupelo and into Memphis, or 72 that goes west to east. There across northern Mississippi. You'd be looking out for those 49E down to the south. That would also be just to the east of Greenville. And right there along the Mississippi River, where we got a bunch of cameras there we'll be watching as we go through the day. And the rain will extend all the way down into Monroe, Louisiana, back over to Baton Rouge and beyond. The rain will be passing through there, too. Head on to the east. Hattiesburg, you get yours early in the day. This is 3 a.m. on Thursday when the linear part of this comes through. 3 a.m. on Thursday morning, passes on by. You'll start to see showers picking up there in the eastern side of Mississippi. That would be right there as you get into Meridian, Laurel, Mississippi, northward across the rest of that region there too. So we'll be looking at that, and those will make their way on eastward as well. And then you get into northwestern Alabama around Florence. That's 43, State Highway 43, 72 that goes west-east through Florence, or 43 that goes down to the south and beyond. And then as you get on up into Franklin, Tennessee, just east of Nashville, that's 3 a.m., so it should be out of the Nashville area by 3 a.m. in the morning as that passes on by. Linda, are you my mother? I think my mom just, I've been looking for you for years and years, and this is how you. I'm kidding. Linda says I'm her son, but we've never met Linda. Um, Somebody's asked too if these are the same storms that have been out into California. We can't really make a case for that. That they're the same storms, but they're the same general area of low pressure that comes into California has to regroup. We got all the mountains there into the west, and they tend to separate a storm, a low pressure, from what it was before it came on shore there into California, but they always regroup and reform just to the east of the Colorado Rockies, and we see those things pop out, and they'll produce more showers and thunderstorms and start the whole process again once you're east of the Rockies, the great mountains. I start to say the Great Smoky Mountains, but that's over here into the east. But this is it's not that unusual. I've seen it. I mean, I was chief in Birmingham, Alabama for many years, and in that time span, I saw a scenario where the wintertime, where November was considered our primary there for a while. We did have, still had the spring season, but as far as primary goes, we did have that as considerable into November. I remember Thanksgiving storms, tornadoes that would come through during the Thanksgiving time period. Even into Christmas, I remember one into Tuscaloosa where we had to drive in order to help people out in Tuscaloosa who had lost their presents for their children. So it's not totally unheard of for this to be the thing. That whole low pressure out there in the Atlantic has to have something to do with devils and witches and some other stuff, UFOs, because I've never seen that in my life to where one of those was sitting out there cut off without a tail to it, without a cold front sticking out the bottom half. This thing actually looked like a compact little bowling ball thing going on there out in the Atlantic, and driven solely by the fact that it was deriving its energy out of the open water and not a baroclinic sort of situation. We have difference in temperature that was creating the energy that this thing was using. So some really odd stuff happening in this season that doesn't always happen, but that's why I love the weather. It changes often, and so it's always been a cool thing for me to watch the weather like this, and I think a lot of you do too. I'll tell you, in my 40-something years I've been doing this, the fact that as many of you who are out there know as much as you do about the weather is quite amazing to me. And a lot of people are now self-taught because of the internet, I know. Used to be books was all we had, but you folks are pretty smart now, and it takes a lot to get over on you. And I appreciate that. I appreciate viewers who are very intelligent, who know what's real and what is not real. What's real and what is no real when it comes to your weather, both dissemination and what you acquire and what you believe out there in the public. And that's kind of what we're trying to do, is separate that a little bit. We've seen the trend here a little bit going toward sensationalism again when it comes to the weather forecast, and I'm not wild about that. I worry about people's lives, and so I want to make sure that you get the correct information. That's what we're going to be trying to do here at LSM, Brett Adair's LSM. It's a brand that you probably know. We got third of a million subscribers now and building through the day, and we're going to be producing more and more weather for you, live weather events. This was live because I have insomnia, and my buddy on the other end here does as well. And Dean, that you just saw a few minutes ago, he doesn't sleep at all, period. So that's why we wanted to try to bring you this information as quickly as we could, because I knew the slight risk was going to pop out again. Thought it might be, you could guess it could be enhanced, just because it's sort of been our trend over the last month to see slight risk go to enhanced in the, with just one model forecast coming out. So we've been, talking about that for just a little bit. Pee-wee, good to see you there. Good to see Scott. Good to see you too. Thank you. That's nice. I appreciate that. And thank you. Because a lot of times we just hear about what you don't like. So thank you so much for saying something kind. I really appreciate that. If someone offers you insomnia, just say no. I'm good at just saying no. I am good at that. So anyway, let's see. Do we have anything else? I see some of you are hanging up now, so I don't want to drag this on for very long. We were only going to be on for about 10 minutes, but I saw the viewers kept building, so I wanted to make sure that we answered all of your questions, that we have an answer for all of your questions. And to let you know, too, that before you go, we will, I don't know if we're coming on tomorrow night. We may, about the same time when we get the new risk and some new information, because then we'll be 12 hours out at that point from the whole situation taking place. So we may come out again and do the same thing tomorrow evening with you. But then as we get into the day on Wednesday, there's going to be coverage, live coverage. We will be on through the event. A couple of hours before the event, if there's a watch that pops out, we'll for sure be on the air. As soon as that watch pops out, Brett Adair will be out and about. We'll be watching his video from his in-car camera throughout the entirety of the event. We'll be talking to him and several others through the day who are out and about traveling and get their information as to what they see to help keep you and your family safe. And they'll be letting us know what's happening upstream with what we're seeing in a 2D format or a 3D format on your screen. They'll give you the reality with their cameras coming out of their vehicles and beyond, with some interviews from time to time and that kind of thing. But we'll definitely be watching the weather for you as we continue through the period, because this behind me here seems to be the potential for about anything that comes through the southern United States at this point. Nothing really is out of the realm of possibility with these new systems coming across. Doesn't seem to take a whole lot of moisture either. We were into the low 60s for dew points for this last event. It was not a high dew point sort of a situation, but we still created enough spin, enough rotation in these storms to provide these tornadoes, produce these tornadoes that took place during the day, because they happen too. A lot of times some of the ingredients really just have to come together quickly and at exactly the right time of day. And that was sort of the situation here too as well, from what we see. So basically that's what it is, and it just happens to be that way. Lauren just woke up, and no, doesn't look like, I'm not ready to say Nashville doesn't get any. I have a daughter who lives in Nashville, Lauren, so I care deeply about keeping her informed, so you want to watch here, because I have family that lives in Nashville, and I'll keep you up to date on what's happening there. I'm not ready to say no severe weather into Nashville. You're close enough to where timing of the day has a lot to play into that, and we just want to make sure that we pay attention to it. So there's the possibility, and it's not just completely out of the realm of possibility. Our very own Brett Adair is live as well. He's in the chat if you'd like to ask him a question. I've got a couple of questions to ask him, but I'm going to let you talk to him first, as he is standing by with more. And again, this is his gig, and we're just a part of it. It's our gig now, and it's his brand, and Brett's been doing this for a long, long time. Brett and I have worked together, I'm not really sure how many years, but I met Brett when he was just so close to being able to grow a mustache. So it's been a long, long time that I have known Brett, but we have like interest, and this is our venture together. He's got his own separate thing you've probably seen many times before, Live Storms Media, in your YouTube or whatever social media that you have, because Brett is the guy when it comes to taking video of either live storms in the title or the aftermath of storms, and he knows more about them. Well, he knows more about them in some facets than I do, because he's out there, and I take a lot of respect when it comes to a person who's out there on the front lines. And in fact, a lot of you first responders, you've probably seen a lot of stuff that I haven't. Now, I've been there after the fact. I've been in it. So I do know some of it, and that's what we want to kind of bring to you here, is some experience that Brett has with what he knows, and 40 years of my television experience, to try to be as concise and support you and your family to keep everybody safe. I always look at it like I'm talking to somebody in my family who's getting the information I do. I mean, some of them won't talk to me on the telephone, but they'll watch me on YouTube. So kind of where we are. I just got a note, by the way, that Brett is still trying really hard to grow a really good beard. So that's out there. Wes is asking about Central Arkansas. Let's talk about it, Wes. We'll go to look at it here for just a second, and I'll show you Central Arkansas. We'll go back in time and look at the model again. This is the NAM 12K, and we'll reach out there, and we're looking at about 5 a.m. on Wednesday. This is the radar composite, what the radar might look like at 5 a.m. on Wednesday in Arkansas. Let me line it up for you a little bit better. Fort Smith is over there on the left-hand side and coming across the border and now working our way into northern Arkansas. That's going to be up there into the Ouachitas, the northern part, the Ozarks of Arkansas, into the mountains there. But that mountain home area has been suspect the last couple of events. That northern part that goes all the way over to Branson there near Table Rock Lake, susceptible. We've had many warnings come in across southern portions of Missouri, near Branson and beyond, and that mountain home area across the northern part, Cherokee Village Mountain Home, that's just to the east of Fayetteville, Arkansas. Those few counties up there have been hit pretty hard with some of these storms that go by. We have a lot of tornado warnings actually up there, but I don't see a lot of damage after the fact. It's up in the mountains for sure, but there do seem to be quite a few tornado warnings there. But let's go through it by the hour here. And again, this is at 6 a.m. coming into western Arkansas. There, the threat, I think the greater part of the threat is still into the afternoon, most likely going to be from noontime till 3 p.m. into the afternoon there on Wednesday the 18th. And again, this is a view of the radar, what it might look like. It's a little bit more organized into a line as you get into 6 p.m. during the day on Wednesday. That's more linear right there. Coming into West Memphis, Arkansas, Earl. Brett and I got on one of our first tornadoes there in Earl, Arkansas, many, many years ago that became a big tornado. We saw it go from a little bitty dust devil out in this field to a full-blown tornado that hit a school there. One of our first little adventures together many years ago there on the eastern side of Arkansas, which is a place, as soon as you get across the border there from Memphis, it's kind of like the glory spot for viewing. It's very flat out there along the interstate, I-40. When you get to the west of Memphis, you can see what you're wanting to see, which is to spout a severe storm or tornado. Visibility super high out there on that I-40 corridor going back over to Little Rock. And then we call this area over here, as you get a little further to the east of the Mississippi River, we end up, this is called the jungle. You basically, it's very difficult. It ups the danger part of this too for those who are out there, our storm analysts who are out and about, viewing these storms for you, who are sending us back videos. Dangerous over here into the eastern side, east of the Mississippi River. And then you throw darkness in there, nighttime. It makes it exponentially more difficult to be out there viewing these storms and doing so safely. So you always want to, think about that for these guys who are out there doing their deal. And there again, you can see this is our little area there that we're looking at, what we're calling the triple point, where we run into an occlusion, it looks like, with our front right about there, and then our warm front extends out like that. And this is called a triple point area here that you see in the radar data. So we sort of creating, you got a low here and then another low that's trying to establish itself right about there into a triple point area. Just from the looks of it, I'm talking about radar, so I think that's kind of what we're looking at there at that point. Let's see. Earl is a gosh awful place. Well, I don't know. I didn't live there or anything, but saw a big tornado there one time. Wes, you are very, very welcome. Super welcome for that, and I hope you'll join us during the event again, which we're anticipating to be there. Sort of a mid-morning, mid-afternoon sort of a thing, but we'll be there as soon as there's some kind of a watch or anything that goes up, we'll be there for it, and make sure that you know what's happening there across that region. Jonesboro, Arkansas, Tornado Alley. Sure, yeah, a little bit later. It is considered to be in the Tornado Alley. It's kind of hard for you not to, know that there's a Dixie Alley here that's ongoing at the moment. We have yeah. Yeah, go for it, like he said. So anyway, pretty much when you start talking about that situation, there's a Dixie Alley here that we often refer to into the Deep South. It can, last whenever you're sort of looking at it. It can last during the fall months or can go on into the spring, as we often see as well. So sometimes we're really looking at that situation as well when we start talking about the whole. And that's kind of where we are at this moment, where we're looking at what's been heading across the upper portions of the area there too. Big Dog is with us now. I don't know if you just did you just get tired of listening to me? What was the deal? You just decided to help me?
Just basically, I am in Memphis right now, which is probably too far north, but I had a little bit of business to tend to and going to be in the area. It's a generally, within the severe area. We may have to shift a little bit to the south, somewhere between here and Shreveport, it looks like, over the next 24 hours. But yeah, we're here. I am actually waiting on clothing to wash and dry. Kind of the late night things that we do. I've got a business meeting here tomorrow, so got to get all that stuff done. But anyway, just kind of watching the forecast and talking about that a little bit along with you here, because it's seemingly been one of those deals where every system lately has overperformed to some level.
Everyone.
So that's kind of where we're at. And I feel like that's something that we've got to watch out for, even in this scenario too, because we've got a little bit more moisture interacting with this particular system than we did with the Alabama system. So.
Yeah, I haven't, when we were kind of waiting to do this, we were really just trying to make a point that we'd get the word out about the risk level, and I didn't look at a lot at the forecast, especially. I haven't looked at any of the 6Z stuff that's coming in, but is timing okay on what I've been showing?
Yeah, I think so. Let me pull it up right now while we're here discussing it. The 6Z stuff, that is. But I think we're pretty much on par. Nothing in terms of timing has really changed. I will say this, and this is something that we're going to have to watch. The GFS was very impressive versus the NAM tonight with some of those convective blow-ups that it has Wednesday afternoon and Wednesday evening. Something, old school that we really used to look at to determine threshold intensity was upward vertical velocities.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff's kind of went by the wayside now, because you got so many of these other products, these helicity swaths and all this mess. And the GFS is really placing some of those UVV or upward vertical velocity kind of bombs across the Arkansas Delta, down into northern Louisiana, and almost up into western Mississippi, northwest Mississippi, and even southwest Tennessee. It's very plausible because there's a stout mid to upper level jet that's going to be over the area, close low over Kansas. So we're in perfect position for divergence and the wind fields. There's going to be a ton of shear with this thing. And those UVV fields are very, very impressive. Something that I've been noticing, and a lot of times where you see those, not necessarily in an exact placement, but where you see those, you could see stronger core development, or either those can sometimes signify supercells. I actually like these a lot better than looking at all these, helicity tracks and all this. This can signal that we might have a problem. Let's see. Let me communicate here with Brandon. On my end here, I can't see the production, so just FYI.
Oh, so right now, I just drew a circle around we got the radar back up next to you, but we'll get that fixed in just a second. This is the HER, which is out now to 38 hours, and it's got that triple point area there over, central Arkansas, sort of, but a very obvious warm front that all the way up north of Memphis by 2 p.m. on Wednesday at this point. The warm front looks like it's, just now coming to the north. Can you see it now?
Yeah, I let's see. 1 second, Dave. There we go. I can see it now. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we've had some rain here recently in the Memphis area too, and I think we've got a small system that's moving through the area right now.
Yeah,
that's going to actually move out of here. And I think we see that warm front that's going to actually move to the area. Let me make some adjustments.
Here's the dew points. I'll put those in for you.
Sounds good. Sorry about my little camera adjustments. This is a little impromptu, guys.
That's all right. This is all impromptu. It's late.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you see the dew points are there. This is going into the day on Wednesday right here. It's overnight, midnight, and there the dew points start to come back up. And again, you can see they go pretty far to the north. We get into the 60-degree. The 60-degree isotherm is all the way up to Clarksville, Tennessee, or Paducah, Kentucky, wherever you want to say. And now this thing has a pretty good dry line back to the south, too.
Yeah, again, it's got to be pretty sharp. Trying to get this mess to load up on my end here so I can get a little bit of a look at kind of the current situation. I noticed earlier, we're still some 48 hours. Well, we're probably 36 hours away from the quote-unquote event. We're already dealing with dew points here that were into the 60s or rising into the 60s. So yeah. That's pretty significant, when it comes to an incoming system. Our rain has finally moved out of the area now, east of Memphis over toward Jackson, Tennessee, Lexington, Savannah. So
these storms here should be severe, shouldn't they? I mean, these are that's 10 a.m. On the HER.
I saw that, and something that I noticed from the SPC within their outlook tonight, they claim that they think those are going to be elevated. I'm not so sure if that's along the warm front or just south of the warm front. I would not rule out the risk at the very least of some hail with those things.
Yeah. I mean, they're obviously in a shear environment.
Or even a tornado or two. I wouldn't doubt that could occur at all at this point. I mean, I know I'm sticking on this has kind of got my mind blown. This little system that has come through tonight may be acting as a primer. Right now in Memphis, the dew point's already 69, 61 down in Tunica, and 64 down in Bastrop, Louisiana. So you've got moisture already incoming, and the winds behind this rain mass have not shifted in a westerly fashion. We've still got southerly winds, and here 12 knots. So we've got pretty stout southerly winds here in West Tennessee. I'm very curious to see if our wind field and our thermal field ends up being higher than forecast. I really wonder if the dew points and the temperatures end up trending upward.
Yeah, I mean, we've already got down here in Jackson, it's the dew point 63.
Right.
63. Yeah, 63 over 63. So it's all kind of that way. It's all really moist as you get back into eastern Texas to north of Shreveport. I mean, there's definitely going to be enough moisture there for all that to take place. And there's some 60, look at this, 65, 66 there just to the west of New Orleans and Lake Pontchartrain, mid 60s.
Yep.
So there's plenty of it there. Not going to take a lot to recover during the day, tomorrow actually, but especially into Wednesday too. There's a lot of advection. There's some strong advection there.
No doubt. I think, again, this is one of those that you have to watch really closely. It can change a lot within just a few days. Excuse me. That's not what I wanted to do. But anyway, yeah, you want to do it too.
Actually, I'm pretty wired up.
I wish I was wired.
Start pumping a sweet tea down, and you'll be fine.
There you go. It won't take long. This will wire me up here in a minute. This Mountain Dew is really going to work on me. Anyway,
that takes kahunas.
Yeah. I got to stay up though. Heath has already departed, went to sleep.
Can you take your iPad over there and let us see him?
No, he's in another room tonight.
Okay.
We couldn't bunk up and be snuggle buddies or anything like that. So I had to let him have his own space.
Lauren, well, we'll get to that later. Lauren says hello. Lauren says hello, Brad.
Maybe I should hold on.
Yeah.
Let me go check the chats out here because I don't really know what's going on.
Lauren said hello. That's pretty much all I'm gonna say.
All right, well,
can we?
Let me.
Yeah, you better.
Anyway, David, continue, sir. Continue.
Where was I? Yeah, so again, if you're just now waking up and joining us, we just got some of the new information in from out of Norman, Oklahoma, where the 2-day now, the outlook for day 2, coming up on Wednesday, shows us into a slight risk again across the heart of western Tennessee, all the way down through the I-55 corridor as far to the west as Baton Rouge, Louisiana, into eastern Texas as well. And, you think there's any scenario here where that gets upgraded?
I mean, we're already at a 5% tornadic risk. So in terms of the tornado risk, we're already maxed out for a slight type of risk. So if it increases any, that definitely could occur. I mean, there's a lot of wind shear in the atmosphere. I really believe that now the question really is the instability factor. If we continue to get increased instability on some of these model runs, there's no doubt that we could see an increase in the severe weather threat level. I think, again, the main threats here are going to be tornadic activity and any damaging winds that could take place.
I hear you. And then beyond that, I didn't look. You said there was another event over the weekend?
Well, there's a pretty good trough that comes through the deep south, particularly Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia over the weekend. Stout 500 millibar trough. It's got some work to do, but wind shear's there again. Another high shear, low cape type deal, and then not only that, but the rest of the run actually has several waves. There's a wave next week, around next Tuesday, Wednesday, that digs down into Texas. Now, whether or not it's very suppressed is a big question, but it's a powerhouse mid-level type system. You get moisture return. The problem is we've seen some runs that have shown a surface low that takes that classic severe weather track. Well, now we're starting to see some suppression, and we see the surface low try to run down in the Gulf of Mexico on some runs, which changes the game entirely. And you know what that means typically when we see a Gulf low this time of the year. So
Yeah.
that's going to be something we got to watch.
I mean, this will make you seasick if you just keep staring at it. But there's our Wednesday event coming through. You can see the dew points are established well further to the north on the Wednesday event than they are
Right.
on the Saturday event right here. Which,
See, that's where it pulls those up into south central Alabama and
Yeah.
Georgia, where that gives you a little bit of a weary eye at that particular area.
Yeah, so that's Saturday, Sunday. That wave goes by. We buckle it up again. Here comes another wave, and this one comes out of the Rockies with a low pressure center again, which, Brett, you know, after that happens 48 hours later, there's severe weather in the south.
Yep.
And
the dew point axis over the weekend looks like the one that we just had almost. It's got that little surge there in south central Alabama.
Yeah, and then this is Wednesday, 7 days from now, 2:01. Same thing, kind of doing that, and yet another wave toward the end. I think it's a little further out.
You see that one though? That one right there is the one that's got you questioning. Because that almost looks like you got an established Gulf low that's riding the coastline there. But look, folks, if you've ever done weather in the deep south, you're going to get 70s, and then if you ever get winter weather or any kind of snow, it's going to freaking be 70, and then it's going to be 20, and you're going to get crazy snow, and it'll be gone in 2 days, and it'll be 70 again. It never fails, even after our biggest blizzards here. A week, at a minimum of a week later, it's back up to 70 degrees.
Oh yeah, I mean the huge cold snap we just had was kind of miraculous. I mean it was epic cold, historic cold that just took place. When was that? A month ago. But I mean the minute you turn around 5 days later and we're almost 5 or 10 degrees above norm for daytime highs after that happens. But here's your little scenario that shows up there by the end of the month. That's the 29th. That's my birthday actually, Brett. So it'd be nice if it did something on my birthday there.
It's way out there, but it's still there. Look at that. We need to go to Gatlinburg for your birthday then.
We kind of do. We kind of do.
That takes place.
Let's
see.
Yeah, it's just wave after wave coming on through, and these are all. This is a track. This is going to be sort of a track that dumps a bunch of snow up into the Midwest for all these events. It looks like they're going to be on the north end of this in like Detroit and Chicago. It's going to be a snowy several weeks in that belt.
Yeah, I mean, the Midwest seemingly the Midwest has had a really good winter. The Northeast, other than the lake effect,
yeah,
you know, those guys have been pretty dry in terms of that. But you know, if you want to go see snow, you probably just need to go to Lake Tahoe and get buried in it because they won't come out before July at this phase.
It'll be a long time on it.
Some of those peaks out there have had over 400 inches of snow already this season. I saw some of those totals earlier, and they were mind-blowing. So,
Jarvis, have you got anything else you can take here for just a second? Because I want to look up something else right here. I don't want people to go into it. Yeah, just a 2-box for just a second. Because I wanted to take a look at one other thing here. It's raining hard here at my house, actually.
Yeah, I see that. I'm going to show you, David. I'm going to throw this in our little discussion here where you can see something. Brandon may want to pull that up. I just posted it in there. That is show you the GFS off of for 0Z on Wednesday night. That's very impressive with some of the blobbiness that it has there. I bet you that we deal with a couple tornadoes. So I'll probably be working damage. If I had to guess, I would be working damage on Thursday at this point.
Yeah. Why did you do that?
I don't see how I wouldn't be at this phase. think Brandon's gonna throw this in.
Jarvis, you can go back now and take my iPad full screen if you want to. I love this site. This is something I've looked at for a long time. This is the Buff Kit Warehouse site. I know those guys really well, and this is I love this site because it goes hour by hour. Now you're looking at some of the raw data here overall, and this is the GFS that goes through this event. This is DIA out at Denver. And so this is a snow event here, and you can see it hour by hour working through 03 on the 18th. That's when the snow starts, and it's 100% snow for the entire event. But this could end up being a bigger event than I first of all thought. This is out at DIA, and this has like a 10-inch total now for that period that goes through. They got some 19-to-1, 20-to-1 ratios that show up, and it's a pretty wet column through the whole way, and about out of 8,300s, they've got 9.5, 7, 9.7, something like that. So that's the event coming out of the Colorado Rockies to begin with. That's the NAM, actually. I'm sorry, I said the GFS. So definitely a snow event there coming out and headed to the east. Now you can go back to me and Brett. That didn't seem to excite anybody other than me.
I think Jarvis has got the. He was trying to pull that piece of the GFS in that I was mentioning a little while ago. It's pretty interesting there. You can see. All right, it's there. You can see those.
Yeah.
That's a lot of upward vertical velocity there. I'm quite impressed with that because the GFS is actually more aggressive with this system than the NAM and the short range models right now.
Which has been weird because it's been the opposite for a while.
It is. The GFS did really good with the Alabama deal too. I'm just a little weary that we're going to see an uptick as we go forward in time with some of our cam models. I'm trying to take a look at some of that stuff right now. We've got, as David mentioned, we've got the 6Z runs coming in. So I'm doing my best to get a little bit of a taste of those right now to see what in the world they look like. Because I'm sure there's going to be some differences here. Oh, wow. This is interesting. So it looks like that the HER, we've got the 06Z HER in. It looks a lot like the 6Z HER has taken the step in the direction of the 0Z GFS. A little more potent with our system here. Let's see. Got a nice low-level jet establishing over the Mid-South region down into Bayou Country. Let's see.
Yeah, you can pull the radar on my iPad here if you want to. This is the rest of the HER radar, which again you can see the warm front pulling north. We're going up through Memphis there. This is 1 o'clock on a Wednesday, 19Z, and there tries to be some stuff here into southern Alabama. You can see at that point, but that's too far away. And the rest of this gets quasi here, pretty linear, pretty fast.
It does have a linear appearance to it, but it also
it's broken. Yeah,
it's definitely broken.
Cellular.
If this were to verify it itself, I'd be concerned across portions of the South here, where especially the Mississippi Delta region. There's a thinner line further south, but that Mississippi Delta region there looks pretty interesting. I'm gonna try to see if I can't get a actual sounding out in front of that, see what that looks like.
SIGTOR is up there too. This is the HER again. This is the new SIGTOR coming out. There's some 3s, 4s there.
Ooh.
Yeah, right on the river.
Tell you what, it's got a little bit of an inversion there. 2 to 3 degrees at the surface. If you rid yourself of that inversion, one of the things you're going to hear us talk about a lot is critical angles. 60, 90, 120 are typically your better angles for tornadoes in the south, and we're right at 60-degree critical angles on these soundings. And with the instability, out in front still, if we raise temps on the model 3 degrees, it is an entirely different environment.
Different atmosphere.
Entirely different. So I'm concerned. I'm a little concerned. It really depends. It's going to be, do we get the instability in time? If we do, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and again, I think if anything, that sort of shapes up to me as a summary of what I've seen the last hour or so. If you sort of make a consensus out of everything we've looked at, I think timing is still what we thought. It could be a little bit earlier in the day back there across northwestern Louisiana. I can't change that really quick, but maybe eastern Texas and Louisiana. That's we're getting around 10 a.m. there. It could start a little earlier, but 10 a.m. looks critical, and then right up into the Mississippi River area there as we get into 3 p.m. looks like our most unstable time of day, which is typically that way anyway, but that's when our Cape values are the highest. And as you said, the further south you go, they are higher. There's a little belt area there, it looks like, over the eastern sections of Mississippi where there's a little reason to think there might be some more instability over there, but then weakening pretty fast, and by midnight, this is midnight or the first of early Thursday morning, all that Cape is gone, and we should just have a linear thing passing on by. But you never know. Like you said, we've overachieved on every single one of these. That ManPad, what's up? I love it when ManPad shows up. And now we got to stay on another hour because he showed up. That's just. No, he's a great guy. He's helped us out many, many times with help me out. He's with isn't he? He's Skywarn. I think he's with over there on the east. Do you know ManPad? Brett?
I don't.
Oh my God!
I don't know that.
I know somebody you don't.
Yeah.
ManPad. Yeah, he's helped me out when times were rough and we were just getting started. He was like, "It's all right, Dave. Everything's gonna be cool." And he's a pretty smart cookie himself, so he's helped us out quite a bit in the past. You got anything?
So, Dave,
huh?
Here's something that I'm noticing that is very interesting to me at the point, at least on the HER model here. The lapse rates are increasing quite a bit ahead of this on the HER now in the mid-levels. You've got lapse rates over 7 Celsius, 25 to 700. Like I said, you raise temperatures a little bit. You steepen all that. You increase surface instability. Interesting. So basically, lapse rates are going to be where we have decreasing temperatures with height. We talk about this degrees Celsius per kilometer. So basically, you're dropping, like I'll 7.3. That's what I'm seeing in north central Mississippi. We're dropping 7.3 degrees Celsius per kilometer in the 7 to 500 millibar range of the atmosphere, which is the mid-levels. So that's what we're looking at, is we're looking at how steep and how quickly the temperature drops as we increase with height. And what that means is the steeper the drop, the more acceleration that a parcel can have in that layer, meaning it can rise and condense faster. So when we talk about steep lapse rates, we have the potential for rapidly accelerating updrafts, which in turn with shear turn into rotating updrafts. And that's where we deal with tornadoes. But not only that, the steeper the lapse rates are, a lot of times it correlates with hail size. We get bigger hail in those situations. when we have big storms and the lapse rates aren't so steep, we have heavier rainfall. It's water loaded, so you're not getting the freezing that you typically get. The freezing level is going to be higher in the atmosphere, so we get more heavy rainfall in lower lapse rate situations sometimes. But it's very interesting. This lapse rate plume out ahead of the storms, and out ahead of the front, is showing steeper now with as we approach the actual time of the event. So that's an interesting trend that we're going to have to monitor over the next 24 hours.
All right, let's talk a little bit here. We're losing viewers pretty quick, and I don't want to put anybody to sleep. But overall, we have this risk. It's a slight risk again, and we're going to handle this again as we typically do. Again, tomorrow night we might do a little update, or I might as soon as the new risk comes out or something like that, a quick one. And then I know you've got some. You got to be out and about, so I don't know that I'm not going to promise that you're there tomorrow night late at this point. But and then during the day on Wednesday, we're going to be covering this live with Brett from his automobile as he travels along, and then we'll be here in our studio along with all the people who are helping us now in the background. Dean Perry, thank you so much for his report tonight. And our guy in the background, I'm not supposed to use his real name. We have to use his fake name, and BJ is his TV name. His the one that's authorized.
It's just
yeah. And I want to thank Breezy the Wise Warrior for joining us, and she sends out lots of thumbs. Is this Heath?
Hold on, let me get my angles straight so these guys don't have a conniption stroke here. Sorry.
Conniption stroke. There's a lot of the country who doesn't know what you're talking about.
I know, it's okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Breezy Be Easy, for being with us. And Edward Armuro is joining us tonight, too, it looks like. So I appreciate that as well. Brad, if you've not got anything else, let's wrap it up. I hate to see the numbers go down.
I need one of those awards from Edward Armuro if they're available still.
I got I don't know. I got 5 or 6 for a newscast. We won a bunch of Edward R. Murrow awards, but
it used to be a big thing.
It did. It used to be. It did. It used to be a really big thing.
Kind of like the Emmys; those used to be really big too. And then,
Yeah, the ones the other night that I was watching, I was like, "What am I watching?" Let's see, Happy Quails. I read that right. Happy Quails and Hardcore DIY. Thank you so much for joining us. Hardcore's been really helpful tonight.
Hardcore?
Hardcore DIY. Do it yourself. Hardcore. I don't know. Just reading them off the screen.
I was going to jump in the chat too here for just a moment and see if we've got any kind of questions and
do that.
Any kind of interaction that needs to take place because it's getting late. And if we're going to be up and dealing with these the next 2 days, we probably are going to have to shut her down soon.
Yep. So there again, the dude's working behind the scenes here, so I hate to wrap it up while he's working. But once again, the new risk is a slight risk. You can see it there. Runs the length of the Mississippi, really back over to some of those northern parishes of Louisiana. Again, the eastern side. That is going to be right there along the Sabine area there, down to the south, and further north you go all the way up. They followed the dew points. They just kind of followed that 62-degree dew point line there in the Kentucky B. I mean, that's exactly the 62-degree isotherm, dew point isotherm curve right there is the slight risk that goes into western Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world. I tell you what, David, one thing I need to look at, I'm real curious about right now. I'm going to check this, and this will probably be the last thing that I even attempt. Because I cannot stop yawning. Cannot stop yawning. Let's see here.
When is that? Wednesday.
Yeah, I need to look. I want to see what we look like in terms of real-time data versus the modeling. Here at 7Z, I want to see what we look like in terms of our thermal. Wow, okay. So our her runs are actually spot on with what looks to be dew points and thermal temperatures right now. So
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Let's pull it up again, and I'll show you the her at 21. This is 3 p.m. into the afternoon. It's right there, the 61, 62 degree isotherm. But look, there's some 60, mid and upper 60s now into Louisiana. That's the highest I've seen so far is in the 06 run of the her, where we had 68 degree. I checked again to make sure it wasn't actual temperatures, but 64 at Memphis. Now, that's a lot juicier than I thought. 66, where is that, in Tupelo, Columbus?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was looking at. I'm looking at current data for literally 2:30 a.m. here. I was trying to make sure basically the surface chart matches what we're looking at the initialization of our modeling, and it's really pretty close. My dew point here is 59 in Memphis, and the 6Z NAM initialized with 58. The her at 7Z initialized with 59, and it's got the low to mid 60s down in Louisiana. So that all verifies. So what that tells me is, at least in the near term, the models are doing pretty good with low level moisture. So that gives me confidence with what we're looking at. Excuse me again. Potentially going forward, but I mean the.
Can you pull my iPad back up there, PJ? JB? There you go. He's talking about the initial, and that's this. This is the her again at 06. So at midnight, we could probably go a little bit further now, but there's the 59 in Memphis he was talking about right there that verifies. So we know that the her is on it, at least initialization, so that's pretty good when it comes to what we're thinking the forecast would hold true to. Now, these are current too, and we're already in the mid-60s down in Louisiana and beyond, and we're still looking at another huge wedge on the east side. Look at this that goes all the way down toward me, Brett, where it says, 46, and I have 44 right now, so for a dew point.
All right.
So in North Alabama.
And that's been a thing all year long over in that area. The wedge has been very stout because we've had cyclonic flow off the Atlantic coast, which has drove northeast winds all the way down from the northeastern U.S. down into the deep south. But you can see that's very impressive to me in terms of the moisture return there. And honestly, I don't know that it mixes out like that. You can see right there, the moisture's deeper at that point in time, and it looks like it tries to mix some of that down some as you go forward in time now. Those dew points look deeper. I really question that part of the model. Like I said, 2 degrees is going to make a big difference in instability with thermals and moisture.
Yeah. Either way, we've got eyes on. We'll be on it through the day coming up on Thursday. I appreciate you guys being with us this late or early in the morning now. We still have quite a few of you hanging by. We've had about 1,800 people peeking in from time to time this evening. And, Brett, unless you have something else, I'm going to wrap it up.
I think that's it tonight. Just stick with us. We will be back for the next couple of days, keeping you updated on the situation, and then we will be live as it really cranks up on Wednesday.
We will indeed. We thank you. And this is LSM again, and the television side. We appreciate you being on with us tonight. All the questions, great questions, guys. We really appreciate it, and good night. We'll talk to you again pretty soon here later on tonight. Bye.